hello again from WJ Live. Merry Christmas just a little bit early. We're getting in the Christmas spirit over here at WJ Live. We were debating earlier if we were actually in Christmas colors. I've got a nice green going. We were trying to decide what Deborah's top was, if it's red or if it's salmon or a burnt orange. I'm not sure. And Joe looks like he's ready to open presents on Christmas morning.
I'm wearing blue, like I always wear.
Wearing blue. All right. Anyway, we're glad to have you here today. We've got three really different topics that we're going to talk about. We want to talk a little bit about the Pornhub case and what's happening there with Visa and MasterCard and what this has brought out about Pornhub. We also have got a death penalty case we want to talk about. And then we've got some absolutely incredible video for you of votes literally being changed before our eyes on a Dominion vote tabulating machine. So great stuff coming up. We're going to kick it off with the lovely and gracious Deborah,
yes,
our intern, who is here visiting, and she's going to talk with us about what's up with the Pornhub case. Deborah.
Definitely. So yesterday, December 10th, Visa and MasterCard both decided to follow PayPal's example and terminate their business relationship with Pornhub following these insane allegations that the company has been monetizing off of sexual exploitation of children and of unconsenting adults. So this was kind of highlighted by the New York Times opinion columnist Nicholas Kristof in his December 4th article, which if you get a chance to read it, I would really recommend. But I wanted to ask you in particular, so Pornhub has reportedly banned downloads from their platform, and they have, quote unquote, made some key expansions to their content moderation team. So what I wanted to ask you two is, do we think that this is just an attempt on their part to save face? Do we think that they're going to just quietly continue to profit off of the sexual exploitation of kids?
Joe?
Was that for me? Okay.
Joe.
Well, I'm going to talk Joe, the libertarian. Let's toss it to you and put you on the spot.
So I do think that with the banning downloads and with the you said the content moderation, right? That's stuff they should have done long ago, right?
Definitely.
They're only, I think, they're going to do a better job of like making sure that it's verified people, just verifying accounts, stuff like that. I was reading up on this a little bit before, but it's not that they're in a hard place, right? They're in a rough place. Because
who are
Pornhub.
Okay.
And I have no sympathy for them. I think the porn industry is
definitely
very evil. It's heinous. It's bad. It's exploitative. It's really bad. Let this not be a defense of Pornhub, because nobody should defend this despicable business model. But we do have, you have to ask yourself what kind of legal, legal ramifications are there here, and has Pornhub done anything illegal? That's a bigger question, because the things that are getting posted are not from Pornhub. They are from
the 230 issue.
Yeah, that's from user generated stuff.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot. I'm trying to figure out what Pornhub can do here. They should do a better job of moderation, right? Yeah, ideally they would shut down, but they're not, because unfortunately our society looks on evil as good, right? So I do wonder, what's the solution here? Because child exploitation is bad and porn is bad. Porn is something that as a libertarian, I do not think it should be illegal, but it's still bad. And then when you get to these user posted,
you clearly think child porn should be
child porn should be bad, but
illegal,
is that something that Pornhub's responsible for?
Yeah. Well, and I almost say jokingly they should shut down. It would be great if they shut down. The problem, though, is as long as you have a free internet, it's going to move somewhere else.
Right.
You shut Pornhub down, 10 things are going to pop up in its place.
This isn't just a Pornhub issue. This is a Google issue.
It's a
human
heart issue. Well, it's a human heart issue fundamentally.
Yes.
It is a sin issue. It is a sin issue.
So I think that if you get too much into regulation, and if the government takes too much action, then they're going to affect things that are not just porn and are not just child abuse.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get into, well, what is the government curtailing internet freedom? And obviously you should not have the freedom to post images and videos of underage people, but if the government takes too heavy of a hand, then they might be able to use that further on down the road when they want to limit, let's say, religious speech, or when they want to limit stuff like that we do like.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is it's good to see what Visa and MasterCard did. It's
Yeah.
a shame that it took a New York Times
This long.
expose to get them to do it, because we can say whatever we want. There's no doubt the people at Visa and MasterCard knew what was going on. Now, they might not have known the extent of it. They might not have realized the amount. I mean, if you read the New York Times piece, I read it a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, I think.
Yeah.
I consider myself fairly hardened to a whole lot of stuff, and even me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is just
heartbreaking.
just
Yeah.
awful. And so they may not have known the scale of it, but the idea that they gave a figure as to how many 1,000 hours of pornographic content was uploaded every week in the piece. I can't remember what that number was, but I know they had about 80 moderators, and so basically you would have had to have
Worldwide.
these people watch. Yeah, worldwide,
Not just nationwide.
You would have had to have these people watching, filtering this bilge
It's almost a
nonstop. So, and they say they're going to expand, but who knows how many that mean? Does that
Right.
mean 2 more people?
Well,
Does that mean
whatever
80
Facebook
more
says we're
people?
gonna expand our, moderators. It's
Yeah.
it's what you say. And in answer to your question, it is sort of a cop out, but they do need to do it.
Yeah.
Because whenever we get it, whenever Facebook has issues with fake news or with bias, they say we are going to increase our content moderation. We are going to have more people look through that kind of stuff, which is a cop out because it's the easiest thing to say. But that being said, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. They just have to actually do it.
There's yes, I think that's true. You made a really interesting point when we were in the green room about actually sort of a libertarian take on this that was really good. Kind of what's happening with the market right now. Explain that.
So
to the
first
folks
off,
at home.
So MasterCard and Visa are private companies, right? And Pornhub is a private company. Now, MasterCard and Visa have gotten a lot of bad press because of these allegations that have come out. And the allegations of them, indirectly basically profiting off of child porn.
Yeah.
That being said, it is, worth noting, I think, that if people, there's an article that I was reading before this that kind of put this into, that kind of explained this pretty well. But basically, when people pay using MasterCard or Visa for videos, they're not using the ones that are sort of like on the dark web, the ones of underage people. So it's very indirect in that people,
I don't think that's.
I may have to look into that. I think usually when people pay for that, they're paying for the verified stuff. I guess the higher quality. I don't know. I'd have to send you this article again. Which
Well, I'm
might
glad
not
that
wanna
your
read.
knowledge of porn is limited.
Yeah,
This is a good thing.
Regardless, MasterCard and Visa, I think we can all agree, morally, they should not be doing business with Pornhub because Pornhub is bad.
Right.
But it was not the government that told them, you better stop doing business with Pornhub. It was MasterCard and Visa as private companies, got a lot of bad press, a lot of bad public attention. People said, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. And they said, you know what, you're right. Now, they didn't do that because they felt bad. I don't think they care particularly much. They care about their bottom
otherwise
line.
they would have done
And it
better.
hurt their bottom line more because people are now looking at them saying, wow, you're, pretty evil companies.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we promise we're not evil. We're not doing
Yeah.
business with them anymore. We're done. Promise. Look, we're cool. We're not evil.
So right,
And that's the way the free market works.
That is the way the free
The
market
government
works.
didn't have to do anything.
The part of the problem. So I think that's a good point. That's a compelling point. One of the places that one of the limitations on that point, though, is eventually you get to a point in society where we're willing to accept a lot more perversion than we used to, and it gets worse and worse. Without revival, you generally don't see a kind of reformation in society as far as that goes. So, if we're counting on the market, if we're counting on people's outrage to make it hard on these companies, then eventually it's going to. Eventually, the public isn't going to care as much, and so those companies will be able to go farther and farther.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that remains is you still are not going to know if you're watching that content. You're still not going to know for certain whether some of these women are actually women or if they're girls. I think one of the ways you deal with this is you radically ramp up the penalty for dealing with this stuff. I also think there's probably a way to alter 230 where you can preserve, and I recognize we've got the freedom of speech issues that come with porn, but surely there is a way to adjust 230 such that websites and the people who run websites that allow this stuff to get out there, that don't make a good faith effort to destroy this stuff, that they get, just absolutely blistered by
But it just
the law.
opens Pandora's box, right? If you are saying, well,
Well,
you're
a lot of things
responsible
open
for
Pandora's
everything
box.
except
A lot of things
you're
open
not
Pandora's
responsible
box.
for anything except illegal content, that is something they're just going to clamp down. And it's not just going to be porn. All
they?
Platforms.
Yeah.
Platforms. And they're just going to clamp down on stuff that's not illegal. They're going to clamp down on anything that possibly could get them in trouble.
I'm saying what you do is you tailor it. I'm saying what you do is you tailor the alterations to 230 to deal with child porn specifically.
Once you give the government an inch, they will take a mile.
Well, but we do give them an inch on a whole lot of things, and there are some things on which they need an inch. And this is funny. This will actually come full circle when we talk about the death penalty case here in a minute when we get to Joe's topic. We got to shift gears quickly. We've got a bunch of stuff for you guys today. We've got a couple videos I want to show you. If you are not familiar with the videos that have come, not porn, yes, not porn.
Oh no. If
you are not familiar with the videos that have come out of Coffee County in Georgia, let me give you a quick thumbnail sketch. The race in Georgia right now is split by dumb joke. The race in Georgia is split by about 12,000 votes right now. Now, there's an interesting statistic. Fulton County in Georgia, there were 106 what we call adjudicated ballots. An adjudicated ballot is a ballot where they can't really tell. The folks counting, the software counting, can't really tell who the voter was trying to vote for. So they get together and they look at the ballot and they try their best to figure out what the person was trying to do when he voted. 106,000 of those. Now, we have got video of what that adjudication process looks like. I believe this is on a Dominion voting machine, if I'm not mistaken. And the person we've got showing this is Misty Martin. Misty is the election supervisor for Coffee County. And we've got two clips for you. I'm going to set the first one's just about a minute and a half. The second one's a little bit longer. I want to set the first one up. Fellas, after we run the first one, cut back to us for a minute because we want to talk, and then we'll do the second one. In the first video you're about to see, it's going to open up showing what looks like a printer. It's actually a scanner, and there's a blank ballot in there. She's just shown it to the people who are looking, who are observing this. There is a blank ballot, and she's going to show you, she's going to show us, how she can take a blank ballot as the election supervisor. She can take a blank ballot and she can actually turn it into a vote for whomever she wants. All right, let's roll that clip.
It scanned it. I'm going to accept it into the system, and now let's see if it goes over for adjudication. Or and these red lines show me that these batches were adjudicated, that I touched those ballots, that someone touched those ballots.
Okay, now pause that for just a sec, guys. So the point she's making there is that in what they call the audit trail, where you're able to look back and see what happened to these ballots, the software does let them know when a batch of ballots was scanned and one of the ballots in there was adjudicated. What it doesn't seem to show is how many of the ballots in the batch were adjudicated. It also doesn't show who adjudicated them. All right, keep rolling.
It scanned it.
We're back at the beginning. There we go.
That someone touched those ballots. But it does not know that I, Misty Martin, touched those ballots.
So they can be tracked which ones were adjudicated.
It can be tracked, but it cannot be tracked to exactly what ballot it was.
So they track the batch, not the ballot.
So, okay, it sent it to adjudication. And
Now
there's
you're
my
going to see her
batch,
pull up the ballot itself.
my blank ballot that I want to adjudicate. And I'm going to vote for Doug Collins. I'm going to vote for Bubba. And I am going to complete it. And I just counted that vote.
Holy cow. It works fine for honest people. Yeah. If you intend to be honest, it works fine.
Say that one more time.
I said it works fine for honest people. Those who intend to do wrong, though, certainly can.
That's right.
That's right. It works really well for honest people. And I think the fella kind of right there a couple seconds before the end, he saw it and he said, holy cow. And that sort of sums up my reaction to this when I saw it. I thought, good gracious, that is something else. Because you could potentially sit an election supervisor in front of a computer if nobody was looking, give the person a blank ballot and just let them run it through, and given enough time, they could change any race. Now, I'm not saying that that's what happened in Georgia. I'm not saying that that's what happened across the nation. I don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough information yet.
Right.
But good Lord, that looks like way too much power for one person. We've got time to make a couple of super quick points, then I want to go to the next
Which is
video.
why, thank goodness, it's not one person doing this. So an elections official noted to a local Georgia outlet in response to this video, when this happens, when this adjudication process happens, there is a voter review panel present.
From a Republican and a Democrat.
And the system logs the change and shows who changed it for later review.
That's not true. According to
Okay.
her, according to the election supervisor, that is not
so there's
true.
not an election panel present.
No.
Yeah.
She, as far as I know, she didn't dispute that, but being able to track it back to the person
So
who made the
basically,
change is not possible, according to the supervisor.
The quick point I want to make is that, and this election official, I'll quote her. She said, "I can go on the street and shoot someone. That would be against the law. But, what this person's doing, if that actually happened, is against the law. People break the law, and hopefully there's a process in place so that they won't break the law. And there is a process in place. There's a panel to make sure that you are not breaking the law. And to imagine that this is like fraud and some wire conspiracy imagines that it's not just one person, it's an entire panel. And the thing is, of course, whenever you're dealing with...
No, it doesn't assume that. It doesn't. I don't think it assumes that at all. What it would assume, and I'm not making this argument, but what it would assume is that one person was able to get with the machine by himself.
Right.
That's
but
not an unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing too. You say someone's watching. I've actually had them cut it for the purposes of time, but the very first section of that clip or the next one we're going to show you shows them taking the camera and trying to place it at about the distance that poll watchers would be and people who were supposed to be present would be, and it's very difficult to tell what's happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, make the rest of your point super duper fast.
No, that is my point.
All
It's
right.
just basically there's a panel there. I'm not sure if it's the poll watcher or a specific panel.
No, it's a specific. No, yeah, it's a specific.
I think it's a specific panel. It's not
designate.
It's an elections people.
Yeah,
So.
and that's a great idea to have that. It's just how do you verify? How in the world do you verify that always happened? Reagan's worst trust.
But that's all
verify.
votes.
That is all votes.
Anyone
all
could
votes.
rip up any votes for Donald Trump. I mean, it could happen. I mean, anyone could break the law at any time.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, is it likely that this is happening? That's the question.
That is the question. You're right.
Yeah.
Fast.
Well, I think that the biggest issue here is that the machine is allowing this to happen in the first place, that the machine doesn't have a way for you to backtrack and see who exactly was the person that made this change, who was present at the time. I think that there's always going to be corrupt election officials. There's always going to be people that want to change the outcome of an election. But I think that the issue is with the voting software. I think that definitely needs to change if we're going to see elections in the future that truly do have integrity.
Yeah,
like they're claiming
Canada
to do.
does the whole thing by hand, I think.
Yeah.
Probably the only
That's
time
not a
you'll
bad
hear me
idea.
say we should be more like Canada,
Not
but
a
I
bad
think they're
idea.
onto something there. Okay,
It's the worst.
second clip, quick setup here. What Martin is doing on this next one is she's taking the case of an overvote. So she's got a ballot there, and she set it up where it looks like they voted for Biden and they voted for Trump. And she's going to show what happens when that happens. That's called an overvote. She's going to show what happens when that happens and how you can use that to change a vote. Let's roll the second clip, fellas. This is going to be a little bit longer, too, so hang in there with us. It's worth it.
And we're going to overvote. And why not? Let's just do, a star.
And overvote, what do you mean by overvote?
Overvote is when if there is
You vote for multiple parties.
multiple people in a section where it says only vote for one.
Okay.
So now, this is a new batch of ballots that's come in. We're going to scan them again. We're going to scan the second batch.
So you're scanning the same ballots twice. It's already been scanned once.
I've already scanned them once.
Yeah, so you're scanning the same
Same ballots twice.
So it'll scan the same ballots two
Twice.
times. Okay.
And I went and remarked on them. So here they go. It just accepted every one of them. Every one of them went through the system. So I'm going to say, okay, yeah, I want to accept them. It doesn't show me that anything really went wrong with it. So now we're going to go back over to RTR and let's see and wait on them to come through. Because normally I don't do the adjudication until all ballots have been ran. So it's already sitting there for me.
So you should have 5 batches of ballots.
Right.
On
I
these
will,
uploads.
Yeah, when these I'll upload, I will have 5. There it is, the 5th batch.
Okay.
It's pending adjudication.
Sure.
So that means there's something that needed to go to adjudication.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm going to go to adjudication. There's my, it hadn't pulled over. There's my batch. I want to adjudicate it right here. This is one that I did right before y'all got here. So we're going to go and say we're going to complete this one just like it is. But if you look, here is a vote that is double voted. It's overvoted. I don't know if when I hit complete, is it going to accept a vote for both candidates? Or is it, since there's a red box around it, is it going to reject it altogether? I don't know.
So the
So I'm gonna
supervisor
say it's
doesn't even know.
complete. I could also say, hide the box. The box went away. There's a check mark. Did it accept the check mark? I don't know. But I'm going to say nothing needs to be changed. Okay?
Does it tell you what it does after you
No, sir.
hit complete?
No, sir. I'm going to say, I want to take it.
Hey, can you
No,
pause it for a
wait,
sec, guys?
just
So that's a huge point there. The election supervisor does not know how the software resolves it when when there's a check mark there.
Yeah, that's not good.
Or when that is a terrible setup. I mean, it is just unbelievable. I'm sorry. Keep going, fellas. I just noticed that. I wanted to
Then
point
we're
it
going
out.
to overvote. And I think I want to vote for Jason Shaw. They didn't vote that ballot a while ago. There wasn't nothing there. I think we need to vote for him. And I'm going to complete it. Confirm ballot save, move to next ballot. Okay. So it pulls up the next ballot that needs to be adjudicated.
So you made a vote for someone where someone did not vote.
I did, didn't I?
And you're the election supervisor?
I'm the election supervisor. I am the person that sits and does the adjudication. Yes, sir.
Go back to the Trump and Biden race and decide, since both are marked, you just count one of them and not count the other. Can you decide?
Let's see. Yep, sure can.
That's the thing.
I think I want to vote for Biden. Let's let Biden win this one.
So what you put supersedes whatever.
Uh-huh.
So you
But I decided this Al, he don't deserve no votes. Let's not let nobody vote for that. And complete. Okay. Well, here's another one.
From our discussion the other day.
I don't think any votes need to vote on this ballot.
Oh, wow.
I think this really needs to be just a blank ballot.
Oh, wow.
Complete.
all right, board. I want y'all to step outside with
I bet he did want them to step outside so they could discuss that. Now, again, we're running the risk of going super late. But I want to give you guys do you have either of you guys have any thoughts on any more of this?
I'll pass to you.
Yeah,
first.
I don't think it looks, it is the sort of thing. I don't think it looks great. I do think, and I do trust that there is a process in place, like I was talking about earlier. Anyone can break the law, right? Anyone
Sure.
can do anything
Yeah.
wrong. I don't particularly like Dominion. I think you're right. Like we should do, like they do in Canada, we should probably just do our, fill things out by hand. That worked fine for a long time. We should go back to that. That being said, even with that, there's a possibility of breaking the law. No matter what, you're always
Absolutely.
going to have the possibility of doing fraud and doing bad things if you want to do them. And the key point is you want to make sure the system that is in place has accountability. And it sounds like they do have some sort of accountability there, so that, what this woman did, if she just decided, I'm going to do this, there would be people who watch and make sure that that's, that she's not just doing fraud.
Hopefully.
And
Hopefully.
I hope so.
Ideally.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything that would make me think that there's this widespread, conspiracy to use this thing to give Biden the election.
I agree with you on doing everything by hand. One thought about the hand recount, you can take all of once the ballots are counted, you can take them, you can stick them in a lockbox
Yeah.
to
Rip
borrow
'em
from Al Gore. You can stick them in a lockbox, make sure 8 different people have the keys to the box so nobody can have 8 locks on there so nobody can get in. And then that's that. One of the issues with this is we don't know who had access to the machines or to the systems at any given time. And it may be that was all totally legit. It may be, but it's very hard to tell that right now.
Yeah, that's
Deborah.
what I was going to say. I think it's so tricky to be able to say that, it's tricky to be able to prove whether there was massive fraud in this election or not, because obviously, as we can see, they have no way of knowing, because once you change it, it's changed. But I think that the thing that needs to be focused on here is that there is a possibility, if they were given the opportunity, that anybody could have walked into that room, ran through some ballots, and changed them. Yeah. And I think that that's disturbing.
Yeah, it is disturbing. And again, we're not... I don't think any of us are interested in making the argument, oh my gosh, this is it. This is it.
Right.
This is what
Smoking gun,
it.
the Kraken.
This is, nobody wants to make that argument. What, maybe it is. I don't know. We don't know the extent of any of this. But I do know that in a state where the differential is 12,000 votes for Joe Biden, and there were 106,000 of what you just saw, adjudicated ballots, 106,000 of those in the entire state. The race is separated by 12,000. This is, if nothing else, it's a terrible look for Dominion. But it really does not instill confidence in the American electoral system, or at least in what Georgia's doing. As far as that goes. So if you found that interesting, we have got the whole story over at thewesternjournal.com. Over to westernjournal.com. I think it's probably the top story on the site right now. It is definitely, it's the one getting the most traffic for sure. We've got the full videos, not the edited ones. We've got the full videos as far as we can tell. There's more content than what you just saw here. And we've got a rundown on everything that was going on there. So definitely go check that out. It's worth looking at. It's worth sending to your friends and sharing with other folks. Okay. So we've got like 30 seconds for Joe. So why don't we expand the podcast a few minutes?
We're going to expand it. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It'll be the best podcast ever. So Joe, we started out, we were joking ahead of time. We started the show on pornography. We're ending it on death. That is the way things progress in life too. It's very sad. Sin had my old pastor used to say, sin will take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you want to stay, and cost you more than you want to pay. And that is the case with a lot of this stuff. So take it over with the death penalty case.
I will
Joe.
try to keep it quick because we are running a little bit over.
Time.
But you may have heard last night there was this guy. His name is Brandon Bernard, and he was convicted of. He's previously been convicted of murder from a 1999 incident where he allegedly killed someone. He's proven to have killed someone. And last night he was executed. And that was a federal execution. That was the Department of Justice, decided to do it. There were a lot of litigation going on before that because a lot of celebrities, a lot of lawyers, I think Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr, those sorts of folks were saying, look, we should not execute this guy. And eventually he was anyway. The legal options didn't quite work out. A little bit of background on his case. So in 1999, and this guy has admitted to much of it, he was part of a posse of other folks who kidnapped a couple, a pastor and his wife. I think they were both pastors. They had founded a church.
Youth ministers, maybe?
Not entirely sure, but possibly. And they put him in the trunk, and they eventually... One of Brandon Bernard's friends, the people he was with, shot the couple in the head. After that, Brandon set the car on fire. They died. It was proven in court that they died of smoke inhalation, not the bullets to the head. But there has been some questions over what the prosecutors did in that case. There have been just legitimate things asked about, did they die of the gunshots? Did they die of the smoke inhalation? What eventually happened. Regardless, I don't think it's that important because this guy clearly took part in a murder. But here's my question for you guys, and I will get into my take a little bit later on. Do you think that this man should have been executed?
I have mixed feelings about this. From a purely political standpoint, I feel like the death penalty makes sense to me because I think that from that standpoint, we don't want to be spending funds, keeping people in prison that have committed absolutely abhorrent murders and that may commit murders again. But from a Christian standpoint, which I think should come first, I believe that murder is wrong in any case. And I agree with you, Joe, that I think that if you were going to commit to being pro-life and if you were going to commit to not thinking that abortion okay, I think that the same case has to go for not thinking that the death penalty is okay.
Oh, it's going to be
What are
me
your
versus
thoughts, Josh?
me versus the panel. I don't think I have much of an opinion on the Bernard case itself,
I guess
just because I don't know enough
from the general
about
context.
it. From the general, I mean, gosh, I'd probably rather take it from just a death penalty
Go for it.
standpoint
Go
in
for it.
general. And
Let's just make it
I
pro or anti-death penalty.
I do support the death penalty. I absolutely support the death penalty. That's an interesting comment you made. You mentioned your faith and how you felt like it was maybe more consistent to be pro-life and anti-death penalty than pro-life and pro-death penalty. I would argue I don't have to argue, there are plenty of examples, especially in the Old Testament, of God putting his seal of approval, at least on the idea
Definitely.
of the death
The Old
penalty.
Testament was also theocracy, right?
It was exactly,
Yeah.
and that was one of the points that I wanted to make. At that point, you've got a state that's headed by God Almighty,
Which I wish we had.
it would, and we're looking forward to that again someday
Amen.
before all said and
Yeah.
done. And then that will solve the Pornhub issue. That will solve the voting issue. That will solve all of this
We
stuff.
won't have to vote.
All of
That will exactly. That will solve all of this stuff. But eternity is not for right now, so we're stuck dealing with these questions. No, it seems to me that there are cases where people behave in such a way that they forfeit. We live in a civilized society. We have decided as a society that there are some actions that are so abhorrent that when the person commits that action, he basically voluntarily lays down his life. He says, "Okay, I am performing an action that I recognize may cost me my life." I think that's the deal that's basically made.
You think it's the social
there.
contract. Social contract, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of iffy on social contract theory, but I do think it makes sense there. I don't know how you take someone. I don't know how you can not take someone who's done something absolutely abhorrent to a child, and say, we're going to pretend like it didn't happen. We're going to restore you. Or maybe you say the answer to that is life in prison. I don't know. Maybe that Bill O'Reilly used to say that he thought life in prison was worse than the death penalty because it would be horrible to be stuck in prison for life. That's maybe a different question. But there are people who engage in some acts that should not be allowed to influence society in any way after they do that. And so I guess whether it's life in prison or the death penalty, I think one of those at least should be exercised in those
Right.
cases.
I think I
Yeah.
do tend to disagree with you, Josh. I
No,
tend to agree
no.
a bit more with Deborah. So my take, and take this for whatever it's worth, is just that the government, as a civil libertarian, I think the government should not be in the business of killing its citizens. So the government, I believe in the non-aggression principle, right? Which basically says that you don't hurt anyone unless it is in self-defense. So the government can have, a military because it's defending itself. But I don't understand how two wrongs make a right. Because one person was violent and evil, then the government has to be violent as well.
I want to ask you a question then. The government basically can't, in theory, can't do much of anything on its own. It operates as an individual on behalf of collective society, right? So there is this idea that the death penalty is sort of the ultimate defense mechanism. You make sure that the person does not harm anyone else ever again. It seems to me that if you think of the government like that as an individual operating on behalf of society, that it is basically a self-defense measure. This person's done something really wrong, and now society has come together and says, look, we're not going to let you do that again.
But I mean, life in prison, you're probably not going to get the chance
Yeah,
to do. Life without
that,
parole.
Well, that's fair.
No
Yeah,
parole.
that's fair
Yeah,
too.
no
That's
parole.
fair too. Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe an interesting question. In cases where capital punishment is used today, would you be satisfied if we simply required life in prison with no exception?
Yeah, I think that yes, absolutely. Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
I think life in prison, I'm not a big fan of the prison system, but I do think there are certain crimes where, you do it and you should not be free again,
Yeah.
murder, things that have to do with children. It's just
Yeah.
terrible. You should not you should never be free again. But there's a difference between not being free again and being dead. And I don't like the idea of the government killing people. I also think it's worth noting kind of the reason that I pointed out a few facts of the case was that there's some question over how much responsibility he had for the death. No one argues that, he was involved. He has apologized. He has said, look, I was involved in this. But if he was not fully, if there's question over whether he caused the death or not, then should he be put to death? If there's a question, should you do the capital punishment if we're not really sure how much technical responsibility he had?
Right. Right. The waiting, I think, in the Old Testament was on the word of 2 witnesses.
Right.
I think. But then you also have the convenience of having a priesthood there where
Yeah.
presumably if they were going to make the wrong move, God could simply tell them that. It's a hard thing. And it's so maybe sort of the common thread with everything we've talked about today is this is part of living in a fallen world. That's all of that. All of this is a sin problem. The heart of the problem is the problem of the heart. And the only solution for that ultimately is Christ. That's the only way any of this
It's not the
really
government.
gets
The government's
fixed.
not the solution.
It's not the government.
Right.
It's not.
It's not the White House. It's
the
not the
free market.
schoolhouse.
It's not anything.
Exactly.
It is only Jesus.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. All right, folks, that is it for us for this week. We will be back next week, and I think Kayla, our producer, will correct me if I'm wrong and smack me around, but I think that's our last week before Christmas. I think we go on Christmas hiatus after that. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today and the videos. Again, you can see the full version of those videos on westernjournal.com. Be sure to tune in next week. We are here every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/WJLive, youtube.com/WJLive. Click the subscribe button. After you click that, you're going to be able to click on a little bell.
Ding!
There it is. And clicking on that bell will make sure you get a notification every time we go live. It'll definitely help with shadow banning issues. And also, of course, what we do is not cheap. We appreciate you just watching. If that's the most you can do to support us, thank you. We are thrilled you're here watching us. If you feel compelled to do more, if it's on your heart to support us in some other way, go to westernjournal.com/join. westernjournal.com/join. You can sign up there. You can get one of these cool mugs that has the WJ logo on one side and says equipping readers with the truth on the other. These are the old, outdated, outmoded mugs.
You don't want one of
These
these
are nowhere
mugs.
to
You
be
want one of
found.
those mugs.
I think the painting,
gross.
I think they're lined with lead paint, so enjoy those fellas. Not the new ones. The new one's totally non-toxic. Anyway, that's our show for today. Thanks for being with us on WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. We're going to see you next week.
Bye.
Hi, my name is Logan Harris, and I am co-director of WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. We have enjoyed recording WJ Live these past few weeks, and we have some exciting news.
We are now on Apple Podcasts, but we need to ask you a favor.
In order to equip even more readers with the truth and continue our fight against big tech, we're going to need more subscribers and reviews.
Go find WJ Live on Apple Podcasts, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a 5-star review.
Thank you for helping us out, and don't forget you can catch a new episode of WJ Live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and now Apple Podcasts.